So in this video, we are going to discuss why retail stores are closing across the United States. Now before we get into this video, make sure to hit that subscribe button and leave a comment below saying I subscribed. I will try my best to reply to as many comments as possible. Retail stores are closing across the United States for various reasons. Some of the reasons include overexpansion, cash crunch, brand-related issues, mall-related issues, economic and demographic changes. Big box retailers have been closing stores as a standard practice, but there have been more closures than usual in recent years. According to predictions by UBS, there may be 5% fewer stores in the US by the end of 2027, which would mean around 50,000 store closures. Major retailers such as Amazon, Bath and Body Works, Walmart, and Foot Locker have announced plans to close more than 1,400 stores in 2023. Retail stores close for various reasons, including overexpansion, cash crunch, brand-related issues, mall-related issues, economic and demographic changes, poor store performance, and changing consumer shopping behavior. Store closures are standard practice among traditional retailers who often evaluate the profitability of each location. The COVID-19 pandemic has also had a significant impact on retail stores, with many companies filing for bankruptcy and closing stores. According to UBS, the most significant closures are expected among clothing and accessories retailers, consumer electronics businesses, and home furnishing chains 5. Retailers often close stores as part of their expansion strategy, and choosing the right locations to expand is crucial. The COVID-19 pandemic has had a significant impact on retail store closures. The pandemic led to widespread business closures, and many retailers were forced to shut down due to non-pharmaceutical interventions that were issued in an effort to mitigate the pandemic. As a result, corporate bankruptcies and store closings increased significantly from 2020. Retail research firm Coresight estimated that the number of store closures in the United States could reach 25,000 due to the pandemic and the resulting recession, greatly surpassing the previous year's record high of 9,302. Major retail chains closed more than 12,000 retail locations due to the pandemic. The pandemic has exacerbated many issues affecting retailers, and managing cash flow has become a critical task for retail and e-commerce businesses. The COVID-19 pandemic has had a significant impact on the retail industry, and many retailers have been affected. Major retail chains such as J.Crew, Neiman Marcus, Stage Stores, JCPenney, and Tuesday Morning were among the first to file for bankruptcy during the pandemic. The National League of Cities reported that retail chains closed more than 12,200 locations permanently in 2020, which comes out to 159 million square feet of emptied retail space. Bed Bath & Beyond announced that it would be closing all Harmon Face Value stores due to the COVID-19 pandemic impacting its business and supply chain issues. The pandemic has accelerated some trends that were taking place before 2020, and retail job losses during COVID-19 were heavily concentrated in sectors already on the decline. Although most of the time closing a retail store is a bad sign, this is not always the case. Retail stores start closing for many different reasons, such as overexpansion, cash crunch, brand-related issues, mall-related issues, economic and demographic reasons. In many cases, you will find the same retailer that is closing a location is actually opening a new one in another place. This is because opening and closing stores is part of a retailer's expansion strategy, and choosing the right locations to expand is key. Top reasons why retail stores are closing. Number 1. Overexpansion. Starbucks retail stores. According to Howard Schultz in his book Onward, at some point in Starbucks' life, it has expanded so aggressively that the brand started losing its standards and essence along the way. Not only stores started cannibalizing each other and becoming unprofitable, but with the overexpansion, the teams were not trained properly, and the stores were losing their soul, as he put it. This has prompted him to return back to his role as CEO, and started closing some of the stores and bringing back the brand to its glory days. Retailers have to keep growing their business, and they do this by opening new stores to acquire bigger market share. Sometimes, though, they overdo it. In the United States, this overexpansion has gone too far that by 2018, the US was having the highest retail space per capita in the world at 23.5 square feet per person. At some point, when new stores start being less profitable for the retailer or even make losses, store closures begin. Number 2. Cash crunch. Managing cash flow of a retail or e-commerce business is a very critical task. This is because most of the cash is tied down in inventory, besides having big cash payment obligations every month, from rent to payroll to payments to suppliers. Cash flow, if a retailer is not tracking and managing their cash regularly and aligning it with their purchases, cracks will start to happen in the business. Cash problems can arise due to bad inventory management practices or bad cash management habits. If the store owner is taking more money out of the business than it can tolerate, for example, out of the assumption that profit equals cash, problems sooner or later start showing up. Low or negative cash balance will lead to defaulting on rent payments, defaulting on loan payments, inability to buy new inventory, inability to make payroll, lower sales due to less inventory freshness. If this reaches an advanced state, you suddenly find the business in a gridlock, not being able to buy new merchandise, while also falling behind on sales for the same reason. Failing to convince new investors to join will lead to stores closing down. Access our members area and read our real-world case studies of retail business problems and how they were solved. Read about ways to improve your gross margins, solve overstock and understock problems, and how to properly plan your retail financials using our easy-to-use online tools and Excel templates. Number 3. Irrelevance of the brand. I've recently noticed a trend in the types of stores that are closing. Most of them are the good old big department stores that we grew up to know. Fashion has been evolving more towards young, hip brands and specialty retail. Most of the multi-department retailers started to be less relevant to the new generation and less trendy. Retail stores closing. There is a big difference between the fashion that you find at Bershka and Pull & Bear versus the fashion at Debenhams and Marks & Spencer. They failed to keep track of the young audience and its taste and failed to cater to it. Not to mention that operating such big stores is very costly. So if they are not able to generate the required revenue, they won't survive and will start closing their stores. Number 4. Mall is failing. I had to close a retail store because the mall wasn't living up to its expectations. As part of the expansion process, retailers go through a detailed due diligence process to open a retail store. Part of this process is making financial projections on how this store is expected to perform and whether or not the quoted rent is justified by the expected sales per square foot. After opening, the picture gradually starts to materialize, and we get to know if this mall will perform or not. Usually we don't expect to break even from the first year, but growth trends in the store sales and its traffic give us an idea of what is to come. From my experience, the best malls are the ones where the operator puts in the effort to bring in traffic to the stores and maintains very high standards of operations, which makes the location attractive for both retailers and shoppers. Some malls, and when a lot of them go, the mall just fails. I've also had to close a store at a mall where the standards were very high, but the rent was not in line with the traffic the mall was getting. Number 5. Demographic changes in the area. Over the years, people start to shift their locations for many reasons related to jobs, climate, taxes. This shift in population usually brings with it store closures in the places where people are leaving and openings in the places where people are moving to. Sometimes the shift is in the demographics. For example, an area where people are aging and the younger population is getting less by the day will also experience lower consumption levels and hence will become unprofitable for a lot of retail brands. Number 6. Recessions. Recessions bring with them lower incomes. Lower incomes lead to lower consumption. Lower consumption means lower sales. Lower sales mean store closures. Store closures mean less jobs. Less jobs equals even lower income. It's a cycle that keeps going for a while and needs to be broken, usually by a government stimulus program. Due to the nature of our economic system and how credit works, recessions are bound to happen from time to time. A retailer who expects their business to stand the test of time should therefore be prepared to run such a business during a recession until it runs its course. Let us know your opinion in the comments section below. This was all for today. Hope you liked the video. Subscribe to our channel and stay tuned for more interesting videos. Stay safe, and we will be back soon with another video.